So.
All right, so can you give me an example then of how you would coach two men? So you've got one guy who wants to get into the weeds and he wants to develop a really structured and formulaic style of game. But then you've got another guy who wants to be very free flowing and creative and expressive and more, let's say, in the moment. So how would you guide those men towards those different outcomes?
Yeah, so the first thing I would do for the guy that's more of the systematic nature is I would teach him my system, the vortex. More specifically, it's called the Vortex of Love. That's the title of my book that's going to be released in a month or so. It's more than a system, it's a super system, I call it, because it's not just a step by step process. It's like once you understand the vortex, you can create your own customized system out of it. So I'm going to teach him the vortex and teach him how to come up with a structured approach to this, an adaptable, customizable, flexible approach to his game, right? Once I teach him that, I'm going to possibly teach him a few other methods and systems peripherally of other coaches. But once you sort of understand the vortex, respectfully, it's extremely advanced. Like it's I'm going to sound cocky for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I believe it's the most advanced system that currently exists. And once my book is launched and people like you who are into game, other people that are really into this stuff that understand the game on a nuanced level, I hope you read it and agree with me that, hey, this is next level shit. So I teach guys my system and then ask them just how systematic do you want to get with this? Because we can get it down to the point where you're creating routines and material and scripts, authentic material that's congruent with your life. It's not make believe material, but we can develop this stuff down to a really fine detail. So you understand the high level structure and system, and then you fill it in with material from your life, right? The guy that's on the more free flowing side of the spectrum that just wants to do more natural game, I'm going to teach him about frames. I'm going to teach him about mindset. I'm going to teach him about state. I'm going to teach him how I developed my game naturally because I'm actually a blend of natural and synthetic. So before I even discovered this idea of technical game, I did pretty well for myself in high school and even after high school for a few years. I wasn't the most popular guy in my school, but all of my good friends were the most popular guys in school. So I definitely did better than most guys did when I was younger. So I'm going to teach him the things that got me good at the game naturally. And then I'm going to teach him a bunch of other principles that deal more in the realm of natural game, like state, mindset, frames, and so forth.
So it's interesting because when I got into game, which is a long time ago, like I discovered Dave D'Angelo's Double Your Dating literally back in 2001. It's been a long time. Like a long time. Anyway, when I got into that, I spent maybe 5 years or so being very, very systems and process oriented. And whenever I was out and I was about, I was meeting women or I was on dates, I was basically running routines in my head. For me personally, it worked. It worked incredibly well. I got great results from it in terms of meeting women, attracting women, and ending up sleeping with those women and they wanted to see me again. What happened to me personally was that I became very reliant on these routines. So like I would have, let's say, like stories, and in my head I'm like, okay, I've said that story. Okay, so that story's out the way. I've said the dolphin story, but now there's the giraffe story and things like this. And it wasn't like I was really connecting with the woman. It was like I was trying to solve a Rubik's cube. That's how it felt. I was like a hacker trying to hack into a mainframe. Then what happened with me was I reached a point where I'd used up all of my routines, and then once I'd used up all of my routines, I had nothing to fall back on. After once the routines were gone, then all of a sudden it was just me. But because I hadn't done work on myself, then I freaked the hell out. And then from the perspective of the woman I was talking to, it's like, hold on, who's this guy now? he was really cool, confident, and sexy before, and now he's the exact opposite. So then I went down the route of just saying, you know what, screw this, I'm actually just going to become natural. And that's kind of the angle I've gone down. But I think your approach is very interesting because you're basically speaking about a hybrid of the two. And if I'm going to be very honest with you, I totally do believe that the non-natural side of game is the best way if you just want to maximize your results. Like if the goal is to sleep with 100 women as quickly as possible, the scientific approach is literally the best way. So
Yes.
me personally, I agreed to take a hit on my results to feel like I was being authentic.
Yeah, no, listen, that's another thing that I definitely will stress to a guy. Look, there are pros and cons to both sides of this, and you've definitely outlined some very real cons to the systematic side of this, right? If you run out of material, then what do? You have nothing to fall back on, right? But if all you do is natural game as well, if your mind goes blank, what do you have to fall back on? So I do believe that there's a way to fuse the two, and I believe that there's a way to do it honestly and authentically. So for example, let's say you have a really good product or service of some sort. Is it manipulative or dishonest or disingenuous to learn a sales system, to learn a system that effectively communicates the product that you have? Well, I guess if you don't really have a good product, you don't really back up your product with a good warranty, or it's really just you're selling bullshit, then maybe using a system to trick people into thinking you have a good product is manipulative. But I definitely believe in building a guy up, making sure he has certain things in order in his lifestyle, and then teaching him, again, a blend of systematic and natural game, showing him the pros and cons of both sides of the spectrum. If he prefers to lean to one side or the other because that's the way he's wired, then so be it. So like I have some clients that are on the autism spectrum, for example. They greatly benefit from having a more systematic approach. It's robotic almost, but that's the way their brain works. So they're not necessarily being disingenuous. And if I wish I could teach them to freestyle a little bit more, I could teach them how to be more in the moment, but they're not quite wired that way. So I completely hear what you're saying. And I went down a similar road as well when I first got into game. I was running game just according to the script. Mystery said do this, right? Mystery was the big name at the time in the mid 2000s with pickup, and there were all these other pickup artists like, this person said do it this way, so I would do it very strictly. But what I eventually realized was, again, like you, I felt weird using the routines. I ran out of material. I felt like I want to kind of incorporate more of a natural spin on this. So I started doing more freestyle stuff and more state dependent game and building myself up as a person, building my confidence from the inside out. And I got some really good results from that. What made me kind of come full circle back to structure was coaching and realizing that just because my path was I learned structured game and then natural game, there were still guys that needed help with structured game. But I didn't really like all the structures and systems out there. I thought some of them were good. The M3 model developed by Mystery is a very solid system, but I wanted to develop my own system. So that's why I created the Vortex. So you get the best of both structured and natural game. Very difficult needle to thread. But I think I've done that. So